Okay, so we have a bit more to go through in this statement by Ellen White, found in Christian Temperance and Bible Hygiene, page 109 and 110. We're now actually on page 110 if anyone has the book, and you can find it online actually at egwritings.org. But I figured, hey, there's still a bit of daylight left, so I would see if we can go through the rest of this together. So the last sentence that we looked at was actually the beginning of the last paragraph that we are going to consider here. So I'll read it again and go on into the rest of the paragraph so that we can keep the context. Here is where we have met the greatest difficulties in religious matters. The plainest facts may be presented. The clearest truths, sustained by the Word of God, may be brought before the mind. But the ear and the heart are closed, and the all-consuming argument is, my experience. Some will say, the Lord has blessed me in believing and doing as I have, therefore I cannot be in error. My experience is clung to, and the most elevating, sanctifying truths of the Bible are rejected. Okay, so these are immensely important principles, as we've been stating many times throughout this series. So we talked about the first sentence a bit already, how these principles of a correct understanding versus an incorrect understanding of what experience is, these principles apply across the board. Unfortunately, the area in which people most often fail to apply these principles is in regard to religious matters. People tend to think that religion is just, personal preference or whatever it may be. People have their own perspectives and it's not viewed as invalid because of a lack of evidence. When in fact, a lack of evidence does make something invalid. So again, this is, Ellen White was dealing with this in her own day, and today it's just as prevalent of an issue. So in regard to religious matters, people fail to recognize the true idea of experience. They forget about the need of having experimental knowledge. So the plainest facts may be presented, the clearest truths, sustained by the Word of God, may be brought before the mind, but the ear and the heart are closed, and the all-consuming argument is my experience. So I'll say I have encountered this many times, where someone will reject certain ideas, and they, let's just take the Bible. People say, I believe the Bible, and then something is presented before them as, hey, look, this is clearly what this passage in the Bible says. And people will reject what it says and twist it to mean something else, or will just say, well, that doesn't apply, or whatever, because, I know that what I currently believe must be true because I had some experience which I take to be the blessing of God. Obviously that's not exactly how people will word it. They will say, hey, God has blessed me in my current beliefs, or going to my current church, or in my denomination. I know God led me there, so therefore that must be the truth. Well, you know what? Even if God did lead you to your current denomination, that doesn't mean that you're supposed to stay there forever. God might have more plans for you that perhaps you don't presently see. So that's a way of approaching it that allows you to be more open to evidence. But if you just take the view of, well, I had this experience and therefore my current position must be true, well, that's forgetting knowledge. That's forgetting genuine knowledge. So again, if your current position is true, experimentation will only reveal that. You should never back away from gaining an experimental knowledge just because you had a certain circumstance or you felt something that profoundly impacted you or anything like that. No. If your current understanding is legitimate, experimentation will only demonstrate that further. So, again, I invite you all to engage in experiment. Have an experimental knowledge. Now, the next sentence here, again, says, some will say, the Lord has blessed me in believing and doing as I have, therefore I cannot be in error. Well, this is just what we've been talking about, so I don't really need to expand on that more. And I'll read the last sentence again. My experience is clung to, and the most elevating, sanctifying truths of the Bible are rejected. Now, again, much of this we have spoken of already in terms of the principle, but I wanted to comment on two aspects here, elevating and sanctifying. Elevating is lifting up, sanctifying, to sanctify is to make holy, and this has to do with an idea of ritual purity. That's a far larger subject than we are able to get into now. But I will say that sanctifying has an idea of constant advancement in it. If you read Paul's letter to the Thessalonians or 1 Thessalonians, you will find that Paul has that idea. Sanctifying being progression, advancing, moving forward, doing good more so and more so. So we need to educate ourselves, improve, to be elevated. So people end up actually rejecting things that are for their benefit because of their so-called experience. So that's something to remember, that no matter what, it is for your benefit to experiment and thus gain knowledge. It is really for your benefit. So why avoid it? Don't allow your experience or your so-called experience to rob you of what really is for your own good. So lastly, I would just like to mention to you all and to invite you all to really enter into investigation of things in a new way. Myself and others, and again, for those of you who are familiar with this channel, you know that we have a message that we are eager to share, that we are heavily burdened to bring before any who are willing to hear principles and truths which we believe can and will change the world. Our real burden is the fact that this world is full of selfishness, and people aren't finding solutions to selfishness. There's lots of problems in the world, and there are people who are devoted to solving those problems. There are people who are devoted to ending world hunger, people who are devoted to fighting particular diseases, and those are so noble. We are so glad that there are people who are doing those things. However, so long as people are selfish, people will be hungry. So long as people are selfish, people will be diseased. It's unavoidable. And if you think it through a little bit, I believe that you will see that that is most certainly the case. You know, if you're selfish, someone's going to take food from someone else. Someone's going to let someone be with nothing. Just remain in a state of poverty. You know, that will happen so long as people are selfish. So the real thing is that there needs to be a change in how people think. That's the only way to have a complete and permanent change in the world. And of course, it comes down to us as individuals. How can that happen? Well, we have to have a different way of thinking. Ultimately, this selfishness and faulty ways of thinking, it comes down to a lack of coherence with truth, with the way things really are in reality. That's what it comes down to. If our mental picture matches reality, we won't be selfish. And selfishness, by the way, also distorts our mental picture. So it comes down to a change of thinking, and that is governed by the ideas and choices that we have and make. So we believe that the things that we've been talking about that are on this channel, that are in the literature that we've written, really do contain the elements necessary to rid us of selfishness. And we can actually live entirely selfless, with no selfishness. We can live in a way that is really for the best interests of everyone. We can end it. And that's our primary burden. So I invite you to gain an experimental knowledge. Do the experiment. Check out the rest of the things that we're saying to see whether or not they are true. Please investigate it. Do the test. Subject it to thorough scrutiny. Don't just take my word for things because you see me talking on a video on YouTube. Investigate it. Really check it out. And hey, I'm not saying that everything that I currently understand is correct. In fact, I'm constantly finding things that I understand that are based off of misconceptions. But I do believe that myself and others who are with me, my wife included, and others here, have been blessed with an understanding of certain principles, which those very principles are the things which are showing us our misconceptions and are enabling us to get a clearer understanding of truth. So again, I invite you all, and I actually plead with you all, please check it out. Investigate for yourself. I can testify that these principles and the truths that we're learning by means of these principles are absolutely life-changing, absolutely revolutionary, and absolutely able to free us from the plague of selfishness, and are able to restore families, restore relationships, reconcile friends, and much more. But me saying that is just hearsay to you. You have to find out for yourself. You have to gain an experimental knowledge. So please do. Please do. You can contact me, you can comment on the video, you can send me a message, whether through our website or through YouTube. The website is bdsda.com. Here, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching this on Facebook, hey, you can comment on Facebook too. Wherever you are, if you're seeing this, you have a way to contact us if you want to at least consider these things. Anyway, I know the sun's going down, and in this video it's getting darker and darker. So that's going through the whole statement. I hope that you found this statement from Ellen White to be full of enlightenment and wisdom, and that it was helpful for you, and I really do hope that it has a large impact on your life as it has on mine. So anyways, best to you all, and I hope to hear from you. So farewell.